You know what's interesting about happiness is over the last few years, I'd say maybe like 20 to 30 years, maybe not that long, but there's sort of been a revolution in understanding where happiness comes from. I think for a very long time, especially in the United States, there was this belief that happiness came when you retired and happiness came when you built wealth, right? And at some point later, we kind of came up with this idea of like, well, that doesn't work because it doesn't. I made a whole video on it where I said I think that the pursuit of happiness may have been a lie, because the pursuit of happiness was this idea that you would work until you were almost dead and then retire, and then you'd be happy at the end. And so, it's like, okay, at 65, when you have a bunch of health conditions and you're having trouble standing up, and you get this nice big check for $2 million, what, you're gonna go to Florida for a couple vacations? Like, is that what you want? And I think back in the day, I think that I've certainly met older people that where the idea that they delayed their happiness their entire life until they got older, only to find out that they never understood how to be happy when that time came, became frustrated and bitter and angry. So we have a lot of older people that are in that sort of situation. Not everyone, just many. Well, what's interesting, I think, is that the pursuit of happiness is sort of going extinct a little bit, and obviously people are starting to just believe it's not even true anymore. With the access to retirement just slipping away very rapidly in the United States and just all over the world. And what's interesting is sort of this idea that lately we've sort of come up with this idea of like, you can be happy now. And I agree with that, actually, and I think that that's important, because if you're able to be happy now, and you're able to be happy in the present, which is what I've been working on doing, and basically saying I'm happy with what I have, I'm happy and content with, I'm able to be content in the present. I can go out on a walk and I can sit on a park bench in the park, hear the birds, smell the flowers, and I can be happy now with the life I've been given. And so for myself, that idea of being happy in the present works. What's really fascinating about it, though, is that it makes it sort of challenging to be able to say, hey, like, if I can be happy now, then why would I go through all of the work to delay my happiness in the future? And that, ergo, like I said, the issue of the pursuit of happiness making less and less sense as we continue to believe, why not just be happy now? If I could be happy now, why would I? If I could enjoy my life the way it is now, if I can find a way to enjoy my life the way it is now when it isn't ideal, why work basically to the bone in all of these different ways to put my happiness into the future? And why do that? And it's like, I don't think that that's why even try to delay our happiness? And for myself, I kind of feel like that's not necessarily something we should do anymore, where we should try to put our happiness into the future, and all of our enjoyment and all of our sort of life meaning and purpose into the future. I don't think that that's something that we should do, or at least it's not what I'm doing, because it doesn't make me happy at all. And in fact, it makes me very disappointed. I actually had a conversation with my mom about this recently, and I said, she was like doing housework, and she was just working like crazy, like it was an emergency room, running around the house. And I said, Mom, have you ever considered like being happy while you're working? And she was like, why would I do that? Like, I can't be happy until it's done. And I'm like, but what if you could just enjoy the actual process of doing the work? Do you see what I mean? Like the discrepancy, right? And you could just see, and generationally, you can see the difference. You could see for Gen X, it's like, why I can't be happy until I'm done. And I'm like, that's your decision, I feel like. Maybe not. But the perspective of I can't be happy till it's done and I can be happy while I'm doing it are very different things. And it's not about which one's right or wrong, but it's about that there are consequences for both, right? Well, that kind of gets into the point of what I really want to get into, which is the idea of, if we can be happy now, then why try to push beyond our capacity to do anything? So, as like an example, there's a YouTube video I think I saw recently from some YouTuber that's taking a break, and this YouTuber had said something. It was really kind of fascinating, and the nature of the video was basically like, I basically gave up on trying to change the world. I gave up on trying to have my life be meaningful. I gave up on all this different stuff. Um, Not in a depressed way, but just in like a nope, I'm just going to enjoy life for what it is today, and I'm not going to worry about when I'm 60. I'm not going to worry about when I'm 50. I'm just going to enjoy life today entirely and live entirely in the present, right? I'm not going to push boundaries. I'm not going to push myself to do anything crazy. I'm just going to enjoy life the way it is. And I had thought a lot about that because um, it's not necessarily, I think it's totally fine to be happy in the present, you know? But what's interesting is that there's something to be said for pushing ourselves to our absolute limits to increase our capacity for things, right? And it's like, why would we do that if there's, I don't want to say no reason to, but like if we're happy now, then why would we do that? And I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like it comes down to the dichotomy of where our happiness actually comes from, and where our fulfillment in life comes from. And for myself, I kind of feel like this is going to get sort of strange, but I kind of feel like for myself, I glean happiness from a variety of different things at the same time. So I have things in my life that bring me a positive experience in the present and today, but also a positive experience in the future at the same time. So like, how do I mean this? Well, I've said this a couple of times, but I am currently trying to push my absolute human capacity for giving. I mean that in every sense, both with like things with my family and with the people close to me, hopefully, Lord willing, like financially sometime, but also with the kind of content that I put out here, where I want to try to have the hardest, deepest conversations with as many people as possible and reach the most people as possible in the best way possible for for the healthiest and most I forget the word for it, but it's like giving away reason, you know, philanthropic reasons, right? Like I'm trying to increase my capacity, the human capacity that I can give in that sense, right? That's kind of where I've been putting my motivations at this point. Now, what's really fascinating for myself, I've realized is that I personally don't that goal isn't necessarily what's making me happy. I don't think. The two things that are making me happy in the present, like I said, the first thing that's making me happy is my ability to take what's going on in my life and just be in the present and enjoy the present and find ways to enjoy the present. But the other way that I'm able to find happiness is by enjoying and fully embracing the journey that it takes and the excitement and the thrilling lack of information, like the thrill ride of not knowing what it's going to be like on that journey. So like, you know, if you're going to go out on like a 6-month backpacking trip, that 6 months is a long time. Let's say you're going to go on a trip out in the mountains for like 7 days. So you're going to go climb Mount Everest, let's say. Well, like which, I mean, like that's a lot. People take oxygen up there, but let's say you're going to go climb Mount Everest, your Mount Everest, in your life. Well, in the metaphorical sense, you know, when you go climb a mountain like that, like before you climb the mountain, do you know how exciting it is? You know, like you're so excited that you're going to climb this mountain, and it's like, this is so exhilarating and enthralling. It's like, I know what I'm going to do, and it's going to be, you know, you're nervous, but you're excited. And like you can find some semblance of joy that that's the thing you're going to be doing, and you can find a way to sort of contextualize yourself on that journey while you're on that journey and find happiness in it, right? So like the idea that it's like at the very beginning of that journey, you're like, I'm so excited that I'm doing this, I'm really nervous, but this, I can find happiness in the fact that this is even happening, right? But then you get up the mountain a little bit and it's really scary, and there's wolves and hyenas, and there's things that you didn't take into account, and there's stresses and all these things that are scary, right? But like I said, there's that ability to be happy in the present, just finding things that make us happy in the present. But then there's also the happiness and fulfillment that comes with the ability to, again, recognize the nature of the journey that's being had. You know, it's not about getting to the end. Everybody always says it's about the journey, not the destination. And that's been such an oversimplification. I've been delving personally, I've been delving into that significantly more and being like, what do they mean by that? Because that just doesn't, it's fine for, generations prior, but for me, I'm like, I want a little bit more there. And for myself, it just feels like the ability to, like, to see on the outside that journey, especially when I've compared it to journeys that I've had in the past that were way more insufferable. I just smile and go, yep, this is it. So, like, as an example, like, I've had horrible work experiences where I just wanted to be done with life. Like, I just didn't want to get out of bed the next day. And I was climbing up mountains that were the wrong mountains, or I was on journeys in life that weren't going anywhere. And so when I'm on a mountain and I know it's the right mountain and I'm on my way up and I don't know how close to the top or the bottom I am, I'm just on my way up and it gets hard, the ability for me to reflect on the previous experiences and be like, you're on the right path. When I'm able to do that and go, I'm on the right path, like, being able to do that is so exhilarating and enthralling. And then contextualizing this one moment throughout the whole journey and sort of imagining myself from the visual standpoint of, like, being on a mountain and flying a drone up the mountain and seeing my progress up that mountain, like, being able to do that, that gives me joy. That gives me joy, being like, look how far I've gone and look how far I'm going and look how far I've come and look at how far I have left to go. But, like, being able to see that whole journey and the progress up that journey, that provides happiness without necessarily delaying it. You see how it's not about, oh, at the top of the mountain, that's when I get my $1 million, or that's when I get to retire. That's when things get better and I get to be happy. It's like you be happy in the moment by finding things in the moment that make you happy, but you also find happiness in the moment by finding ways along the journey as you push yourself to the human limit to be proud of the fact and enjoy filled of the fact that that journey is yours alone, and, like, no one can take that for you, and you cling to the mountain with, like, all you got, and, like, there's something about that there's, like, a grit to that just goes, like, this is awesome. And I kind of feel like, for myself, like, that's the whole for me, I feel like that's the whole reason why I am pushing myself. Because you can make a great case. There are people out there, I mean, for millennia that have just been like, I don't have to push myself because I can be happy now, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I have always had this desire to push myself. And at first, when I realized I didn't have to be happy to push myself, I didn't have to push myself to be happy. I could be happy in the moment. I realized that and was like, oh, then there's no reason to push myself. But only later did I realize, no, you can push yourself. And then you can be you can enjoy that journey by contextualizing your path on that journey and smiling and going, this is my journey alone and it's no one else's. And, at least for myself, that's what I've been doing. And the challenge with all of this is when none of this makes any sense, and when, you're on a mountain and you're like, it's not my mountain, it's not my path, it's not my journey, it's making no sense, I don't know what to do. I was there. I mean, I was where my life didn't feel like I had control over it. My life didn't feel like I had a reason to be doing anything. I was just kind of having things happen to me instead of, like, taking life sort of like by the neck and then going, you're coming with me, life. And then I am the one sort of calling the shots, so to speak. That's kind of how I feel like it is now. But before, it wasn't like that. I can definitely say that the context by which we climb the mountain that is our life, or we take the journey that is our life, the context by which we feel like we approach it is really, really important. And so I would sort of, I guess, encourage the people that are out there that are living life right now that feel like it isn't like that to sort of be like, hey, if life feels like it's completely out of control, like out of the control of the person living their life, or your life or my life or whatever, if we're living in a way where our life feels like it's out of our control entirely, and we're on a journey that isn't a journey we picked, then it's going to feel like there's no reason to go, there's no reason to look at that in and of itself and feel joy, So we have to find ways to pick a mountain that's our mountain to climb and then find joy from that, And if you're on a path or a journey that you feel like isn't for you anymore, because it wasn't your journey, it was someone else's, or it was your parents' expectation of you. I had some of that, or it was, whatever happens to me in my life happens to me, and then I just am like the benefactor of consequences, and I don't actually contribute to my life. It's like, hey, maybe that doesn't have to be the case, and maybe you think, okay, how am I going to grab life by the neck and make it happen? And it's like, I'll give you a spoiler alert. Absolutely nobody knows how to actually do that. And in fact, no one knows how to do that until they do it. And the whole reason I don't think anyone knows how to do that is because if they knew, they would have already done it. If you knew how to get your life back, not so much back on track, but to build the life that you knew you wanted, you would have done it already. The same way I would have, because I didn't know like how to build my life in a way I wanted at all until I lived a life that was so terrible, that I was like, I will do whatever it takes to go grab life by the neck and do my own life before I take my dirt nap. I was like, this ain't happening, Chief, This isn't it. And so grab life by the neck. Just do it, and consider the fact that life doesn't actually have to be out of control in that way. And if life feels out of control, I don't think it should have to.